And we're back with WAAAGH Tactics. It's the rise of the green tide. Or is it receding? Let's get into it. So like always, we like to start with the stats and the facts. So Orks are sitting at a 48% win rate of this last weekend. I'll look at it right here. But a 50% win rate in the last 3 weekends, which is post-data slate, of course. Now, if you look, we're actually sitting with 6 X and 1 placings, which means 6 players only lost 1 game out of 5 or 6, whatever they chose, whatever event they were at. Most likely GTs have 5 to 6 games. But what I found interesting here, right? We have some of our harder matchups like Tyranids, Leagues of Voltan, creeping kind of around the same win rate as us. You see Death Guard creeping up, Black Templars through the roof, and then something that caught most people off guard competitively was Sisters of Battle. Sisters of Battle having a crazy win rate right now. So Orc players, we are going to become aware of those sisters, right? Because they give us a different kind of problem. Post-data slate, the Orc community is looking at a different plethora of matches that have all changed, yet require somewhat different tools to kind of go into. We know what's difficult for us, but sometimes if you run into something new, you won't see it coming. So we're going to start with one of the lists that I personally enjoyed this past weekend. We have several lists that are going to be quite interesting to go over because none of these lists are actually that similar. Maybe 1 or 2 will have, like a Gaz, but from the 4 lists I'm going to go over today, they're all quite different. Actually, I think 5 lists I'm going to go over today. So you're in for a treat today. Now, we're going to talk about Michael Granger. So Michael Granger, as he has a absurd score because it's all 20s and then a big 0 at the end. This caught a lot of people in the community by surprise because they were like, what's happening with this Orc player? What is he doing? I'll tell you what he was doing because I'm very familiar with this list. Now, we have a Gazgul Thraka, Kaptain Badrukk, Mazrog's Cragbag, Nob on Smasher Squig, and a War Boss with Follow Me Lads. Quite typical pre-data slate. A lot of people will argue maybe Gaz isn't good, isn't worth it. Do the math. A 33% increase in damage is definitely worth it. It just goes into what you foresee yourself going into in the meta. And like I said, we're starting to see a lot of different matchups. I think Gaz is going to become more prevalent. Now here, he took 2 trucks, only 2. Quite interesting. And then Deffkilla, right? I'm one of the people that I wasn't too much of a fan of Deffkilla. Happy Krumper is a big fan of Deffkilla. So to each their own. Maybe it's in across the pond, as we like to call it. They have different kind of meta and archetypes they like to run, but Deffkilla are quite interesting. They're one of the only units to have Deep Strike in our index. Flash gets 2 units of Gretchen, and then one of my personal kind of secret keys that I'm starting to get into is the Kommandos. A lot of people think Mandos are too point costly. They're not effective. They don't really punch. They're kind of just existing sometimes. I think Mandos are, of course, like I always say, meta dependent, but also going into post data slate and the current season, as I like to call it, infiltrating and scouts are huge when you see yourself getting to the top tables. Okay, when you see yourself going into competitive matchups or lists as a whole, having something that can infiltrate to deny scouts, to take the center, to stop you from getting move blocked as an Orc player is a skill and a tool all in itself. So we'll get into that. I'm probably going to do a video on Kommandos next weekend. So we have 1 unit of Mega Knobs, but this is Gaz's entourage. So he chose to just run a big O unit with Power Claws. Normally people will run just 2 Mega Knobs. We're going with 5 today, which I kind of like. It's crazy damage. It's just a pretty huge profile to kind of hide, right? A 10-man unit of Knobs, always still going to be my favorite scalpel unit we talk right now. He has Follow Me Lads with that unit, so they're just chucking themselves down the field. I really like that. Disembarking them behind like a center terrain is actually the real key that you want to do, because then you can compound Here We Go with that, and you're just flying across the table with your scalpel unit to just destroy the enemy. Problematic unit. 1 big brick of Squighog Boys. I'm still running Squighog Boys currently right now too. Bandos are what allow you to still run Squighog Boys in some of the matchups and such. And then 1 unit of Storm Boys. I really like Storm Boys, but I actually only have 1 on my list too. It feels a little odd. I really like having 2. If you're running 2 and Bikers, I totally understand that. But this list is something I can relate a lot to. What it is you can stage in different parts of the field and do tremendous damage, reach out, but yet you don't have a bunch of units that you're trying to hide necessarily, all these different transports and getting stuff. You immediately start with board presence. You immediately start with Gas saying, hey, if you come into the middle to contest me, I'm going to run out and utterly destroy you, not just because my unit can punch, but because we have Makari's lethal ability from 12 inches and on the wall. And here's the thing. All of us Orc players understand what that is. a lot of people in the Warhammer community don't even understand that the whole point of Gaz is actually Makari. It's not Gaz himself going in there that you're really that impressed about. Of course, when he goes off, you're happy about it. It's really the Makari ability that makes him so valuable. So let's look at his matchups. I have a couple notes here on his final matchup, the unit the faction he lost to, but let's look at all his matchups because it'll be fun. So context matters. So we have Tau. Tau was one of those armies that they're going to have a ton of scouting and infiltrating. So let's see. We have Unva, Cadre Fireblade, Commander in Battlesuit, Enforcer in Battlesuit. Here's the Breachers, Devilfish, Crisis Battlesuits, Ghost Keel. And then this is interesting, a little Hammerhead gunship. That's hilarious. 2 units of Kroot, and then here's the Pathfinders, followed by the Tetras. So with this, it actually has less stuff than I would think some other Tau armies might have, just because a lot of the time they're like trying to keep you off them. So they're going to scout into the middle of the table, put Pathfinders all up in the way, even maybe stealth suits. And this is all one of those things that if you have Mandos, you already start putting the pressure on them. They can't overwatch you. That's horrific for Tau, especially if you end up going first. And you're like, well, I'm just going to walk right into you because you can't punch me off you. So very interesting there. Put up a fat 20 on him. Let's look at the second matchup is Grey Knights. Grey Knights is one of those armies that you must know what they can do, okay? And if you don't know just off the top of your head from doing your research and understanding their interactions, please ask your opponent. Hopefully he's a good sport and he lets you know that, hey, man, I can just run away from you in a bunch of different ways and interactions, and if you fail charge, I'm dipping. And then we have the Grand Knight Nemesis Dread Knight, which is interesting that they decided to bring them again. Not surprised at all by the changes. They give you the firepower you need. The Librarians give you the ability to pop transport that you need from the Mortals. And then Caldrago, so you can get that nice, reliable, deep strike charge off, right? So we have, but here's the thing. As an Orc player, remember, our control of the board and our board presence is what's always going to be a hard factor for the Terminators and the Grey Knights, because you're going to tell them you can only end up here, and if you drop within 3 of here, you're not going to be able to charge me, and then I might counterpunch you. I still might OC you. I might just block you out of the objective. So doing all the technicalities in the movement phase is how Orcs actually beat the Grey Knights. It's not just, can I punch them? We know you can punch Orcs. So we have Terminators, Terminator, and then 3 Nemesis Dread Knights, the Eversort Assassin, and a henchman, right? So you can see the Grey Knight Dread Knights are coming up, boys. They're being all over the place. If you don't have maybe some AP, good strength from the knobs, here's where the Squighog boys would feel good. You're going to have a problem with actually killing those if you're just bringing, like, let's say, truck spam, for example, right? Which normally truck spam would actually feel kind of good into Grey Knight list because they can't pop them. Well, the Dread Knights help them into that. But when you're running upper gas and all that ability to just go off on the Dread Knights on that one turn, if they try to hold the board at all, the Grey Knight player might underestimate you and get ran over, or just understand that the mission doesn't allow him to beat you in placement. So then we have his third matchup, which is Tyranids Synaptic Nexus. This is one of those factions that can catch you off guard. Orc players are not aware of this. So we got Death Leaper, Neural Tyrant. We're getting a little different. Hormagons, okay. Biovore, Exocrine, Lictor, Norn Emissary, Ravengers, Ripper Swarm, Screamer Killer, and Von Ryan Leapers. Another unit that's going to take the mid-table right away and be kind of annoying. Even if they don't charge you, understand Orc players that they're going to just stand in the gaps and say, your trucks can't move here, your squid can't move here, your mouse can't move here. I'm just going to stand here and not even charge you for 75 points. If you don't have something like Mando to start taking the presence right away. Screamer Killers are quite good point value. You got to be careful. We're trying to deal with them as an Orc player, not give them too good of trades. But what happens here with this Nexus fleet is they do have a built-in armor contempt for one turn where they can just put it on their whole army, making it harder for you to really one-shot those Norn emissaries, even with your Squighog boys that are normally quite reliable into all Tyranid monsters. But this is where Gaz comes into play. You go, hey, not just can Gaz get in there and do some crazy damage if you roll with his dev wounds, because on the Mega Nods on the wall will give him dev wounds. And he also gets +1 to hit, +1 to wound. So he's just wounding these guys on 2s, no problem. Right? The real thing is that Makari is giving 12-inch of lethal. So you're like, hey, Norns, you know what? These knobs are going to straight up one-shot you on this side of the table. I'm going to pop Unbridled Carnage here. My big unit of not power-clawed knobs and Gaz are going to punch this one Norn emissary over here. And then if they have to, Squighog boy support, maybe I throw my bomb squigs into them, and all of a sudden he's chipped down. So I can see how the Orc player can, with that specific list, can look at Nexus and go, hey, I can actually handle you, right? Because if you're running some of the older archetypes, you're going to start playing the can I out-OC you game instead, which can also work. But remember, they have great OC and extra creams can start picking up units. So it does take some finagling. Having Mandos to maybe even stop one of those Norns from walking onto an objective would be amazing. So yeah, which is what I'm saying, guys. That's a skill in itself, and you're not going to get the points for killing. Just keep that in mind. Then we have his fourth matchup is Chaos Demons. Now, Chaos Demons hate to see Orks because we're just like anti-monster 4+. We normally have an issue with our lack of AP, but they just have invuln. So we're like, have to get chipped down. So we have Selexi, Be'lakor, Changeling, and the Miska Slanesh. I didn't notice that. Sorry, I should have pulled that up. Keeper of Secrets. And then we have Demonettes, Nurglings, Pink Horrors, Plague Bears, Screamers, and then 2 Brigands. Not much to say here. They didn't bring a bunch of like the typical monsters, but you can see they still have the monsters they need of Be'lakor. This person is looking to deal with shooting armies to an extent. And when Orks come in, we're like, we'll just pick all this stuff up in nice little skirmishes. And this is resource allocation at its finest as an Ork player. Then we have his second to oh, that was the second last matchup. Sorry. And then we're going to go into his actual final matchup, which I brought up some data sheets so I can show you gets what we're talking about here. So we have the Chaos Lord, Harkin World Claimer, Sorcerer and Terminator armor, and a Warp Smith, a Cultist Mob, Chaos Rhino, just 1. And then these are what's interesting. 2 Predator Destructors, a Chaos Vindicator. I'm going to show you that data sheet in a second. Chaos Vindicators, a unit chosen, another big unit chosen for those lords. Here's the Forge Fiend, maybe coming off all the table edge and reserve to get that angle of fire. And the Raptors, obviously this is for Harkin. Harkin is a deep striking melee character, essentially. These guys allow him to come in and just actually destroy something. Not bad point value. It's a bit expensive of a missile. This is a unit you would want to fight in death against as an Ork player. 2 units of Warp Talons, kind of like their version of Storm Boys. And then 2 Nurglings, which is why I said you would want Mandos, because you're going to be like, ugh. Either way, he did lose. I'm not saying they saved him this game, but we see how many of these units that we're going over that have the ability to start in the middle of the table. Sometimes if you go second, you just lose. Now we're going to look at the couple of little little combos here, right? Because here is the Chaos Predator that we were looking at. It's Predator. They were set with autocannon. So it's rapid fire 2, 48-inch range, hitting on 3+, not strength 9, -1, flat 3 damage. But it says right here on the side, when it targets an infantry unit, improve that by 1. This also how they have it built out with Nurglings. They don't want to get shot, so Nurgling can now decide to put stealth on that. Not that we're going to necessarily shoot it, but if you really had to, maybe you'd be like, oh, I guess my flash gets to go into it. No, I can't. What's also interesting is he can compound that -1 ability with another -1 ability, right? So the Death Hex from the Sorcerer and Terminator armor on a 2+, you can target an enemy unit on 12 inches that's visible, and you say, now you get additional AP -1 when you're targeted. So the autocannon is now going to be, instead of AP -1, it's going to be AP -3. So when he's looking at that unit of Gaz and Meganobs that say, I'm going to check you in the middle of the table, once the Gaz and that Meganob unit have to commit, because at some point they are going to have to commit. They are a big investment. The Predators are just going to pick all that unit up. All right. So that could be a possible issue of also why that was such a hard matchup for him, because he did end up losing that matchup and getting a fat 0. Maybe he went second and made the compound issue even more. Either way, I'm sure that player was an exceptional player. And of course, Michael Granger did a great job. Awesome. I love to see Gaz. I love to see that you weren't scared to bring the big unit of bodyguards and you played into your meta and the terrain that you had. So great job by you, and the fact that you made a splash in the community because everybody was confused by your score. So fantastic. So whoa, from Michael Granger, right? So before we go into the next one, I'm going to look at some chat real quick because I actually have a second monitor now, boys. Yeah, that's right. I used to only have one monitor doing all this. So let me see what you got to say real quick. And then, oh, right on. Q, ECOP with a 5 whoa membership. Let's go. Like always with the support. Greatly appreciate you. Very generous. We love you very much. You know, everybody gets to become a part of the Great WAAAGH because it gets like you. So give them a shout out if you're able to collect that membership, and you should, because it's awesome. A gifted. You can start as a little rump, and then become a squig, and then a boys. And I see you in chat, all the boys. Let's go. Whoa. Right, let's go, guys. I'm excited about this. We got the 18 Deffkilla. Let's go. Everybody knows about the 18 Deffkilla meme. What's going on here? Let's go. Then we have also put your chats in, guys, because I can see it now live while we're going over things. And I'm only going to be shouting it out. No more of that delay because I can't see what you guys are saying. Now I can. So we're going to go over Alberto Lopez's list. This was actually in Mexico. So shout out to my fellow Mexicans. Por la raza. So we have his interesting list. I'm gonna show you gets. So he said WAAAGH question mark. What the? Don't be questioning the wall. So then we have a Big Mech in mega armor, a Deffkilla Wartrike with super cyborg body, Kaptain Badrukk, Mazrat's Cragbag, and a Painboy with Kunnin Kommandos. I know some of you guys really like that. You know, and always talk to me about it. We know Mad Doc can already have it built in, but he doesn't get to regen guys to his unit. And some people like the syringe, or maybe you just don't have a Mad Doc model. You're like, whatever. Then you have a War Boss with Follow Me, and then another War Boss without it. Now here you can see he has the big brick of Boyz. Guess what else is in this list? 3 trucks and the battle wagon. That's for the boys. That's for the War Boss, you know, and then we have the Flash Kits, Gretchen, big unit of Mega Knobs for the Big Mech and Mega Armor, and then the Knobs with the War Boss. I'm not sure which one had Follow Me Lads. Maybe it just matchup dependent. He threw the War Boss, Follow Me Lads, maybe in the boys, maybe in the Knobs. You know, you never know what he chose to do. Both make sense. We have the Storm Boy unit and a War Biker unit. So I'm very into these kind of lists that have the big unit of boys. Then he has the Big Mech for regenning guys, and then putting him a 4-up invuln. So it's a different kind of durability. Deffkilla Wartrike to run up the field and kind of take the presence. No Mandos. Mm-hmm. So let's see some of his matchups real quick. And of course, like I said, I actually have some data sheets for his last loss we could talk about in the combos. But let's look at his wins. So we have Death Guard. Very interesting right off the bat. Biologist Putrefier. Foul Blight Spawn. Lord of Virulence, and Mortarion. So we're very familiar with Death Guard do. They're looking to throw free grenades into you, get lethals on crits on 5s, such like that. So big unit of Plague Marine, another unit of Plague Marine, Brick, a big fat mat unit. Remember, Mortarion also gives the ability to ignore your modifiers, so he doesn't care about hard as nails. We have the Death Guard Rhino, and then the Plague Burst Crawlers, triple Plague Burst Crawlers. What's interesting is that Mortarion allows them to ignore the debuff or the penalty for indirect fire. So keep that in mind. Then 2 units of Nurglings. We know what they can do here. What I'm happy to see as an Orc player right now is that we're not seeing the Death Shroud combination on this list. This list archetype is already difficult enough to deal with Death Guard, but when you would throw the Death Shrouds into there, it's really problematic. This could either be the missions came into play, maybe they underestimated or overestimated the survivability of Mortarion into Orcs. Don't know exactly what went into this matchup, but just know as an Orc player, the kind of abilities you're going to have to deal with on this is dealing with the Rhinos that can't be really shot, and you're going to most likely want to wrap them, tag them, stop them from moving into where the positions they want to be, and just killing anything that he's using for scoring. So as you can see, he doesn't really have scoring units here. So every time you kill something that's trying to score him points, or if you don't give him a good fix secondary as his second one, right? So don't compound, assassinate, and bring it down, because then you're throwing it away. You have way more likelihood to kind of win those kind of matchups. Then we go into his second matchup. The world is green. He went to another green tribe. So let's go. We have a Beastbosses and Squiggler with Edwap's Kid Chopper, Kaptain Badrukk, Mazrat's Crashbag, Follow Me Lads on a War Boss, and a Super Cyborg Body on a War Boss. Now, I've done that before, you know. People would argue kind of a brute was better. We have 3 trucks, 1 Flash Kits, Gretchen, 2 units of Big Knobs, 3-man units of Squighog Boys, and 2 Stormboy units. Still a very good Orc list. Nothing wrong with this Orc list. Got nothing bad to say about it, really. You know, and he just went for the Beastbosses and Squigosaur instead of Maz. I mean, not with Maz, excuse me, instead of the Nabaz Magical Wapas Kill Chopper. But I see he went for more utility with 3-man units. You know, that's the flexibility of Squighog Boys. And just to say, in my humble experience, when you're going with Orcs, you know, if you go second, you're going to be in a bit of an issue here. As an Orc player, you don't really want to go second to another Orc necessarily, unless you're very, very cunning and you can understand how to take advantage of that. Or it's just, you know, it becomes a very chaotic, crazy game with Orcs on Orcs. So, you know, that can go either way. But Gerald, Nieto, you had a great list too. So no shame in that. Sometimes it just comes down to generalship or who goes second. So he can be messy. Then we have his third matchup, which is Chaos Space Marines. We have Abaddon the Spoiler, Lucas the Eternal, and Warpsmith. I believe Lucas like fights on death or something funny. And then Abaddon, of course, with his rerolls. You know, the Chaos Marines are going to slightly be shifting into gun lions, right? So in my opinion, we have a Chaos Biker. I think these guys actually get picked up and come back off the table edge. Kind of fun. Land Raider with Las Cannons. Chosen. Forge Fiend with Hades autocannons, a Hellbrute, which has an interesting kind of weird abilities and utility in his own way. Noise Marines, that's interesting. I haven't seen Noise Marine being used much at all. A Beast of Nurgle. Beast of Nurgles are oddly durable. They're like T7 or T8, I can't remember, with 7 wounds, and they fully regen at the end of the phase if you don't one-shot them. One time at a GT, I had a Maz get stuck in combat with the Beast of Nurgle for like 3 rounds of combat, and Maz was losing by the end of it. So we have Nurglings, War Dog Carnivore, and a War Dog Carnivore. So carnivores are fine for their points value. This can be, one of those matchups that if you allocate your resources incorrectly, as in you're just like, oh man, I'm really gonna go for you're gonna try to touch them real quick and throw into all the Land Raider into the Chosen and not really worry about what their firepower can do to me. No, their firepower can definitely take you out. And Abaddon can just dissect one of your characters and then kind of sometimes absorb the clapback. And carnivores are just like a weird fighting unit. This is not the most efficient Chaos Space Marine list, but just know, it can beat you, it can catch you off guard. But I think Orks as a whole, we do fine into the melee version of Chaos Space Marines. It comes down to how crazy is their gun line and what's the terrain looking like. Then we have his 4th matchup, which is Space Marines, Black Templar, Ironstorm Spearhead. And thanks for that. Noise Marines can force a Battleshock test, which is very important for you Ork players to keep in mind because Battleshock hurts us greatly, which is why Tyranids can be a problematic issue. Well, thanks for that. We have High Marshal Helbrick, Lieutenant, Tech Marine with Arguing Array, and the Emperor's Champion. Primaris Crusader Squad, very nice for Space Marines. Cheap, a lot of bodies, good amount of wounds. Other armies don't like to see it. Orks just think I'm going to crump all that. Impulsor, Ballistus Dreadnought, Gladiator Reaper, pretty good for the Orks matchup. Another Gladiator Reaper, Infiltrators, keep that in mind. We have the God Hammer Land Raider. We don't hate to see that as much as we would hate to see a bunch of flamers. We have the Sword Brethren Squad, Repulsor Executioner, and Scouts. Ooh, okay. And we got the Scouts boys taking up that mid table as well, like we've been talking about. This, to me, Space Marines can definitely be hard, but they're going to run out of resources for scoring. You're going to dissect their kill their scouts. Whenever they get into combat with you, very much work for the fighting and death trade. And by the end of the game, you might be able to see them, and keep playing the secondary mission, denying them their primary instead of trying to fight to survive on primary for the first 2 turns is very important. So how you play the mission and go about it as a Ork player into Space Marine, Black Templars, or very strong Space Marine list is how are you allocating your resources? What is your rate of attrition? Are you throwing away your stuff turn 1 and turn 2 for primary, or are you reserving your primary scoring so that you can score your secondaries, dissect their army and their scoring potential on secondaries, and then just start beating them on secondaries and primary turn 4-5 or 3-4-5 once they're kind of running out of steam from you fighting in death and you kind of choosing the engagements and tagging their transports or their dreadnoughts. Like the Ballistus Dread isn't like that effective into Orks. It doesn't really do anything that great, in my opinion. Just saying. And then is his last matchup with Space Marines. Now, he said, in Lenin, I trust. Now, if you don't know what that means, he's talking about John Lennon from Art of War. He's the one who kind of came up with this archetype of I'm going to play Vanguard Spearhead in a very cagey, very skilled manner. So do you have to be aware of this? If there's someone good enough in your meta that can figure this out, yes. Because reactionary movements and shenanigans are always good, but they can also have a huge margin for error that they just get annihilated if they mess up. So we have an Apothecary Biologist with the Blade-driven beat, Malleus Calgar, which we'll look at him in a second. And then we have Urinal Ventress, which allows you to use strats twice pretty much. And then he'll go in the Company Hero squad right here, most likely. We have a Centurion Devastator squad. These guys can pretty much come off the table edge, come back on the table edge from the Vanguard, get +1 AP, and then just decide, hey, I'm just going to annihilate you from whatever angle of fire I want to get and destroy, and just reliably destroy anything anti-tanked and mostly in the game. An Eradicator squad, which is another kind of reliable anti-tank in a weird way. Not in a weird way, but like most units for 95 points aren't that effective on their own data sheet. So we'd like to see that. A bigger unit of Eradicators. An Inceptor squad where he decided, I'm going to go all in, make it one big unit. This could be another unit that decides I'm going to take advantage of these strats. That's why they're making these bricks of it. But then he follows up with the smaller one for scoring and then another big one. They're going for the big ones because they're all about shenanigans. They're all about coming in from the table edges. This is why I'm a big fan of, right now, Infiltrators and even like a Deffkilla Wartrike take table edges to stop people from coming where they want to do. And then 2 Scouts. We have the Cladius Assassin and then the Inquisitorial Henchman. Very, very cagey army to deal with. Manius Calgar, we'll show you him real quick. Manius Calgar gives you +1 CP. That's on top of Ventress allowing you to double use strats. So you got to be aware of, hey, they're going to be using the same strats multiple times in weird ways. And then if he has the honor guard, which I'm actually, did he have the honor guard in his list? Did I miss them? If he did have the honor guard, they would give him a feel no pain, but you don't necessarily need the honor guard to play him. Nope, he didn't bring him. But just so you know, if he has that, he's a 4 feel no pain. He fights pretty good on his own. 6 attack, strength 8, -3/3, and then there's twin linked. So even if he's wounding you on 5s, he can be problematic on his own, and he's quite durable. Very fun character. Like I said, this is one of those things that you might not see at your local meta necessarily, but just know it's out there and it's very powerful. It does take a certain kind of players to start getting into that, right? So shout out to Roberto Lopez. Whoa, for my fellow Mexicans. So right here, I'm gonna take a look at the chat real quick, but we actually are gonna go over 2 lists from the Northern Hampton 40K Super Major. Right, this was out in the UK, or United Kingdom, it says. And we have a ton of players, over 100 players. And we have what's that kid's name? Manny Chino, the Custodes, winning that event. But let's take a look at what you got to say in the chat, and then I will get back into these lists. See what Dagger says. Commandos are expensive, but they're a great tool to control infiltrators and scouting. I denied 4 Sagittars from moving forward against Voltan. I used them to hold move block a turn 1 Rhino against T-Suns. That's exactly what it is. You're not going to get your points for that necessarily, right? Used in killing, potential. Used Mandos against Space Wolves, and they popped a few Thunderwolf Cav, turn 3 and survive. I like the Breacher for a 2nd Power Claw. I've never had any success with my Breacher. That's just secondary. Like, you got that off. The real value was what you mentioned at first, with the Sagittar, stopping them from moving, stopping all these different kind of gunline armies or strategic reserve armies, and saying, I'm going to control this sector of the table. I'm going to walk into you if I have to, even against, like I said earlier, Norn Emissary, Custodes, just walking up to them and not charging, just standing an inch away from them and saying, you're not going to get past me. You're not going to get the objective. That's huge for them. That's huge for those guys. So definitely keep that in mind. That commandos are really just a skill and a meta thing in themselves, but they are super expensive. It's very frustrating to deal with. Very frustrating. So, Philo at the ITT earlier this month, Gaz was the key to each of my wins. Being able to take out units that would normally be problem is fantastic. Exactly. And that's what we're going to see for the rest of the meta, I think, right now in the data slate. The people that are snuffing their nose at Gaz just aren't dealing with some of these tankier armies yet. Of course, you can use your technical skill to see them, to move block them. There's a bunch of different maneuvers that you could do as a skilled orc player. Or if you're someone who just plays casually, or maybe you're going to events as much as you can, just to say right off the bat, Gaz, 12-inch on the wall, increase all your damage by 33%. There you go. And then when you have to do even more on someone, go off on them even more with Unbridled Carnage and stacking that. Start one-shotting Norns, start one-shotting, even some of these really problematic infantry units. And I think it's a direct kind of answer for Custodes, because you're going to have to find a way to really chew through them on that one go turn. He said, dare you to take the bandana off. Didn't you give me a super chat last time for having it off and being traumatized for life? No, don't be trying to confuse me. So we got Deffkilla Wartrike with a 4+ feel no pain. He got hit for 12 wounds, made 11 feel no pain, take wound. That's outrageous. Also, it's just outrageous how for a 4+ feel no pain for 15 points, you're doubling that model's wound amount. So mathematically, he's 18 wounds instead, which is very funny. Like you said, Noise Marines. If you get swan to, that's all up to you. I like how all tanky Gravis bodies are known for being in sneaky scout detachments, right? It's it's weird because they're tanky, but they're also maneuverable in a weird way, right? Oh yeah, he does get all guard. Oops, I should have read that on his data sheet when I pulled it up. Do I still have it up? It probably does. It probably says it right here. Yeah, right here. It says it right here. So I was being silly right here. Thanks for reminding me. It says right here, he's Epic Hero with 2 Vintrix Honor Guards already in his unit. So sorry, thanks for pointing that out, because my dorky self almost forgot to mention that, even though I read it beforehand. It dipped off the top of my head. So thank you. I appreciate you greatly for that. Now let's look at my 2 gits right here. We have Kayla Meehan, and we have one of my personal favorites, Russell Graham. Whoa, part of the Discord. What's up, Git? He ended up going 4-1 also. What I thought interesting is they both had challenging matchups into similar armies. So we have his Caleb's list. He has Beastbosses and Squigosaur with no enhancements. Ooh, Big Mech with shock attack gun. Whoa, look at that, guys. Look at that. A mech on foot, just typical mech. Knob with smash the squig. Here's what Edwapa's kill chop is. A war boss, a war boss in mega armor, and then a weird boy. I'm hoping he did it solo, and if he didn't, easily stick him in a 10-man unit. Super awesome to do that. 2 10-man units, a burner boy unit, 2 units of Gretchen, 1 unit of Ludas, 3 mega knobs with twin kill saws, a 10-man unit of knobs, that scalpel unit we love, 2 storm boys, a 3-man unit of Squighog boys, war bikers, a battle wagon, a death dread with the scorcher and 3 claws, and 2 trucks. I like this combo of battle wagon, 2 trucks, or 2 battle wagons, 2 trucks, 1 truck. I think it's great. The Death Dread, that's up to you as a get. You think you want to tuck into it. I think he's over costed, but the fact that you're looking for Battleshock tests between the Big Mac with the shock attack gun and the Death Dread is showing his awareness to Battleshock being a strength into some of our harder matchups, like Custodes, for example. If they can fail Battleshock test, you can end up taking them out in that game just because they couldn't do their strats anymore. So we'll keep that in mind. If we have more access to cheaper Battleshocks or when our Codex drops, we have to keep food for thought right there. So fun list, very different. So you guys take a second look at it. We got Burner Boys, we got Ludas, we have only 1 3-man unit of Squigs. Still brought the battle wagon and decided I could put different gits in it. We have the war boss and mega armor for the mega knobs with the twin kill saws. I like the twin kill saws. So his is just a totally different to what everybody was saying. He didn't care what the people were saying about meta, me, or anybody else. He was like, I'm just doing whatever I like because I think it's good. And he did great. So shout out to you. Let's take a look at his lists. I mean, his matchups. I will say here, though, he did drop game 1, which does matter. I understand that. Points being made for that in the future. But just let's take a look at his first hard matchup, because this is something that we talk about as Orks. Very aware that Astra Militarum is one of our hardest matchups. People kind of scoff at them a little bit because they're so unreliable, yet they are reliable into Orks. So we have Lord Sola Leontus, the platoon command squad. That way he can put Grand Strategist for the Master Vox. We got Tank Commander, Ursula Creed for I think she's like another CP, everything, or order. She's another order. Katachan Jungle Fighters for that scouting potential. We have 2 units of Bulgrins. These guys have great durability into Orks because they reduce damage. They have a good toughness. They can actually fight you back as an Ork player because they have just enough strength. The AP doesn't really matter that much with multi-damage. We have 1, 2, 3 units of Khazarkin, maybe trying to get those double orders off, coming off the table edges like we were talking about earlier. And then triple Manticore, followed by 2 Scout Sentinels. So real quick, let's look at what this is looking like. So the thing here, if you haven't gone into it, why this is freaking annoying. Here's a Scout Sentinel, moves 10 inches with a 9-inch scout movement, okay? And it says, as is daring recon, at the start of your shooting phase, select 1 enemy unit within 18 inches and visible to this unit. Until the end of the phase, each time a friendly Astromilla model from this target makes a target against that unit, reroll hit rolls of 1. And if that unit's indirect fire ability, it does not suffer the penalty to the hit roll for shooting for targets that are not visible. That means he's ignoring the fact that he's indirect, taking a -1 to hit. So then he's now stacking and able to keep the stacking from heavy on this Manticore. So the Manticore, the heavy ability would give it +1 to hit when it's stationary. Of course, never moving. So it means now the Manticore is hitting on 3s and is re-rolling 1s, which is problematic because that means he's definitely going to reliably pop the truck now. Normally, you're like, oh, I have a chance my truck might survive 1 Manticore because it's not like a high volume of shots. You can end up kind of whiffing on that. But if he's like, I get +1 to hit and rerolls, all of a sudden he just start popping your staging units, and it's very, very problematic. Very, very annoying as a Ork player to know that you're getting disembarked and kind of dissected. And then once you get blown up, it might drop you in the line of fire of something like a tank commander or a Khazarkin or something like that. And they did just small arms fire unit away. So Astra Militarum are super strong into Orks right now. A Bulgrin helped them kind of hold the line in the mid table right there. This is another thing that I wonder, hey, if you have gas, you just run these dudes over. Do you get to make it, or is it still too late and they just shoot you off the table, right? So, and that's something we're going to keep in mind because, spoiler, we had that issue with our boy also that we're going to go over. So we have, sorry, I pulled that up twice. His second matchup. So from here forward, he didn't lose any of these games, but, just keeping this in mind for what happened here. We have Iron Hands, Iron Storm Spearhead, Iron Father Pharaohs. He's pretty cool, but he's the straight up Iron Hand name character. Librarian Phobos Arbor, Lieutenant with combi weapon, Tech Marine with the flesh is weak and the Tech Marine. This is I think the combi weapon guy is the one that allows you to reroll 1s when you pick an objective. We have Heavy Intercessors, fun, interesting. Inceptor, Infiltrator, Scout, Redemptor, Dreadnoughts, and 2 Repulsor Executioners. Not the most meta list. Of course, if you lose the first round, you're going to go into another person who lost, which means they might not have brought the most meta list. That's okay. So we go into his third matchup with his Tyranids, the Unending Swarm. The thing is here is that this takes a long time to play. This is one of those armies that you might want to be like, hey, I brought my chess clock. Start going get. Otherwise, it might take up too much of the time. But we have a Death Leaper, a Neuro Tyrant, a Tervagon, 3 units of gargoyles, one being a big fat unit of gargoyles. Keep in mind, these are the type of units that's going to say, hey, I'm going to move, then I'm going to shoot, I'm going to move again, I'm going to get right in your way, I'm going to stand right on the line and not let you go anywhere. I'm going to have crazy OC, touch multiple objectives. So it's pretty hilarious how gargoyles kind of work. And they can be annoying for orcs. Hormagaunts, Termagants, a big unit of Termagants, another big unit of Termagants, big Termagants, of course, a couple bricks, and the 10-man unit right there. Biovores, 2 units of Ectocrene, Lictors, Neurogaunts, Neurolictor, Ripper Swarms, and the Venom Thropes. So this is one of those units, armies that orcs do have the ability to punch through and chew through, but it comes down to, are you going to time out before you even get through the game? Hopefully you don't, but that's one of those weird armies that you're just like, I guess if you want me to run into you, I will. And then the orc has definitely an amount of punches to deal with all of that. So he put up a 99, almost a perfect score. Then we have, that was it, right? Yeah, okay, making sure I messed that up. Then we have his fourth matchup, which was Angron, World Eaters. So we got Angron, Lord Invocadus, Juggernaut with favorite of Corn, Master of Execution with the Berserker Glaive. He's still great. Then we have, and this is good too because he gives orders. Lord Solar Leontis means he hits on 2s because Lord Solar Leontis can actually tell the Manticores to get orders as well. So thanks to, of course, all these different rules that can stacking. So that means even more reliable because you're re-rolling 1s to push the point even further. We have the Jackals with 2 units of Jackals, of course, for a sticky objective. Corn Berserkers, World Eater Rhinos, 8-bound, and a Maulerfiend. It's looking very typical. I think Maulerfiend's a great rapid ingress target for orcs. Not for orcs, sorry. For World Eaters, they really like that, but you kind of need some kind of shooting to get the most effect out of it to get its bloodthirsting ability. So then we have his, like I said before, I think orcs do great into World Eaters right now, as long as you're CP managing. And then we have we have Chaos Demons with Be'lakor, Shalaxi Hellblade, and Scarbrand. 3 units of Nurglings, 2 units of Pink Horrors, Plague Marines, Blood Crushers, Flamers. Blood Crushers are freaking awesome as a whole. Orc players, be very aware. Blood Crushers are great. They're like our Squinghog boys, but oddly better in some ways. They do mortal wounds on the charge. They have a built-up 4-up invuln, so they become very interesting. And with the Demons shenanigans of coming within 6 inches, and redeploying shenanigans, I think just running into a bunch of those would be very annoying. But yeah, the thing is with demons is they're have really good shenanigans, but at some point they got to get in front of you because they don't really got shooting, which means we're gonna wand to them and we have all the tools to kind of deal with them and the amount of volume of punches, everything like that. So great job to Caleb. Then we have I didn't say his name wrong, right? Oh, Caleb. Sorry, buddy. I'm illiterate. Then we have my Russell Graham. Graham Russell. Sorry, I'm got my working with that name. Shout out to Jay Hoon with the 5 gifted memberships. Whoa, let's go get. Appreciate it. Very appreciate it greatly. Oh, when is the hobby stream? That is this Friday. I just brought that up. That's actually this Friday. So let's go. So great, you, Jay Hoon. I appreciate greatly. You're very generous of you. I hope all you guys can collect some of them gifted memberships so y'all can turn into little runts and then become squigs. And maybe one day you'll be a boy, a proper lad. And yeah, just so you know, the hobby stream is this Friday, so 2 days from now. And then we'll be going over pictures and chatting for a while. Then we have almost 2K subs. We're on the way to 10K. Whoa, yeah, we are, kids. So think that this channel started about 7 months ago. That's quite amazing. So thank you to you guys. It's mostly from you guys liking and constantly fighting the YouTube algorithm and, putting WAAAGH in the chats and commenting and liking the videos and always having something to say and participating. So thank you guys greatly. It really does mean a lot and it helps a lot. So yeah, we're getting it, boys. We're getting it. It's the rise of the green tide. Let's go. So we have my boy Graham Russell. Let's take a look at his list. So I do have a couple little side things that he had said to me that I can remember off the top of my head. He has Beast Boss, Gaz Gultraka, a Knob with Wall Banner, a War Boss with Follow Me Lads, and a War Boss in Mega Armor. We have a Beast Boss, 2 Beast Snaggle Boy units, and then a Brick of Boys. 4 trucks, battle wagon, 3 units of Gretchen. That's where I'm at too. I really like 3 units of Gretchen. 2 units of Mega Knobs, 1 big unit for the Big Mech and Mega Armor. Then we have 2 units of small Mega Knobs. One's for Gaz, one's for, actually, I don't know. I should have asked him what the other one's for. And 2 units of Stormboys, maybe for scoring and secondary missions. Really hilarious. One thing that he did say to me when I asked him, how did you feel about this list? He said he didn't like the boys in the battle wagon, and that the last 2 games he actually disembarked them and just not disembarked, sorry, started them outside of the battle wagon, just straight up on the table in the deployment zone, and then he put 2 units of Grats into the battle wagon. He said that really won him the game, actually. So if you want to hear more about that, you can ask him in our Discord. I'm sure he'll go into you gets about it. I love the beast bosses. Everybody loves the beast bosses for the dev wounds. You know, if you're running into some things in the meta, like all these different demons that are starting to feel a little bit more confident, the Tyranids that are starting to feel more confident in their own ways, maybe a bunch of little Tau transports and stuff, the beast boss just runs into all these things and chews them up and spits them out. Or this unending swarm, you're like, yeah, right, bro, I'm gonna punch the crap out of you. So let's take a look at his matchups real quick. He did say he had a lot of really good games and really close games, just so you guys know. So we have Imperial Knights, Canis Rex, super powerful, and Citrus Knight Apostro. Oh my god, I don't even know what that guy is. I might look at him in a second. Armiger Warglaive. 3 Warglaives. Interesting, I guess. Those are all the same, right? Yeah. And then we have Caladius Assassins and Evisaur Assassins. You know, this is what we kind of expected. I didn't expect Misbegit, so I'm gonna have to look him up real quick in a bit. But Canis Rex is awesome. You know, this comes down to how good is the knight player. A lot of the time, maybe it's just a casual player. He doesn't understand that you can just run him over, and you run him over. Having a bunch of 2 beast bosses on your list versus this guy and Gaz is like, oh my god, just annihilating when he does close the distance. And even what makes it nice is the beast boss unit can go out there and here's one of your little knights, here's one of your little knights, and then when you respond, you know, maybe I fight you in death, maybe I countercharge you with something else, and then my whole green tide comes at you and just runs you over. So great job, Russell Graham, on that one. Now, his second game, I'm sure this was one of his tough games too, because it's a 66-point score. So let's take a look at that. We have the Eldari. So Eldar is super annoying all the time. Let's take a look. So Artark Wayleaper with the Phoenix Gem to come back to life. Avatar of Cain, Farsia, the Troop Master, or Trope Master, whatever freaking thing's called. And then Yavrin, a Star Weaver, a Wave Serpent, Fire Prism. It's great. Night Spinners, Ranger, Shadow Spectre, the Trope, another troop, Sorry, these are Harlequins from what I understand. And of course, we have the Night Spinner for that reduction. We have the Fire Prisms for all that shooting. And then interesting, just transport with the Wave Serpent. This is one of those things that they're going to have shenanigans for moving. They actually do have some fighting. If they are smart with their Yavrin, they can teleport all over the table somewhere when they shoot and kill something, but later they can't do it all game anymore. It's just one for how their data sheet's been changing. So it's a bit more manageable, but just understand they still have ability to just play the mission and have just more units, which is better for them. It's a different kind of challenge for Orks in a way, because you're like, then you guys still have a lot of different units with this and OC. Yeah, you still have a couple monsters here. So be aware of what they can do. They're still very powerful. And in the right hands and the right player, they are a problem. Now, as for his loss, this is what was interesting, like we talked about earlier, is he went into Astra Militarum. So like we spoke about earlier, here's Laura Solar Alliances again. Something I didn't mention earlier was that he does give orders to vehicles as well. He's one of the few ways you can actually do that. For vehicles reliably, Ursula Creed allows more orders. Then we have tank commanders, Catachans to scout into the middle of the table, infantry squad, another Bulgren squad, Kazakin come off the table ledges or give themselves double orders possibly. And then here we're talking about the indirect package. He says, I have 2 Manticores and 2 Basilisks, just 1 Scout Sentinel. But this is the thing where these guys can get orders. The Manticore can possibly reliably pop one of your trucks, and then the Basilisk can go into put the other firepower into it. So let's take a look at the Basilisk, because I don't think it's very unlikely that you see more Basilisks. Because of their Earthshaker round. So in your shooting phase, after this model has shot, if one or more of those attacks made it a Earthshaker cannon scored hits against an enemy infantry unit until the end of your opponent's next turn, that unit's shaken. While a unit is shaken, subtract 2 from its movement characteristics, subtract 2 from its advance and charge rolls. That means if the Manticore does disembark you and then it does just chip away at some of your knobs or any unit that's inside of there, maybe your big 20-man unit of Boyz, for example, that unit of boys is drastically dwindled in movement. So keep that in mind. Like we said with the Scout Sentinels, they're going to scout 9 inches if one of them get off. The Manticore, which is 3 flat damage, strength 10. And like we always like to said earlier from this Christian told us in the chat was Lord's Holy Hunter is giving him +1 to hit. Scout Sentinels possibly giving him +1 to rerolls, or possibly even hitting on 2s. It becomes outrageous if of course, that's worst case scenario. But even then, they're still putting enough shots into you because the Manticore gets heavy. Guard are just an issue. It's one of those things where I'm personally thinking I need Mandos to start taking their presence in the table and something like a Trike to run up in their face and kind of soak some of their damage, because if they're just selectively shooting everything they want at will, they're just going to solely dissect you and kill you. Not sure that it's the answer yet, but really they're just hard for every Orc player no matter what. So his fourth game is against Adeptus Sororitas. So great job here because these girls are annoying. And Magifier, Junith, and Morgenval. Morgenval awesome. Junith's pretty good too. So we have Battle Sister Squads. Battle Sister Squad, 3 Battle Sisters, only 1 Rhino, 2 units of Arcoflagellants, but one of them is the big brick. 3 Castigators, which these guys have like strength 10, -1, flat 3 damage cannons, which is good enough for Orcs in a lot of cases. We have the Celestine of Sacra Saints. Not sure how good or useful these guys are right now. Maybe I'm missing their compounding effects, but hey, it happens. I'm sure they have some kind of use so that he wouldn't have brought them. Exorcist, Paragon Warsuits, very reliable killing potential here when you put Morgenval in there, and it becomes a good amount of volume of fire and damage multiplier. It's just decent amount of durability, which is something that just sisters don't have. So then when you're like, hey, I'm going to go commit to that unit, they can keep playing the mission everywhere else because these guys are just looking to stack up points. We have a Ripencha squad for the countercharging. Seraphim squad. These girls are just looking to come in, shoot, and then move. I believe Seraphims move after they shoot with their little hand flamers. So they just want to go jump onto an objective and keep scoring all over the place. You don't see the Crusaders and stuff like that, so it's not like the most annoying version of sisters that you might see, but which I've seen, you're like, what? Those 2 deads are 25 points and they call stable edges? That's super weird. So hey, but shout out to you for taking out the sisters, because that's a difficult game regardless. And he said he had a lot of really good games here, close games. And then we have World Eaters. So you have Angron, Karn the Betrayer, Lord of Makades, and Master of Executioners. 2 units Jackals. Zerker squad, another Zerker squad. One's for Karn, one's for the Master of Execution. Probably big ones for Execution. World Eater, 2 Rhinos, and then 1 big unit of Exalted 8-bound, followed by 2 other 8-bound units. One's Exalted and the other one's not. So I think it's just, yes, I understand that a really skilled player can still be hard to deal with for World Eaters. But like I always say, it really comes down to, are you managing your CP correctly here? And are you understanding their threat ranges? So great job to Graham Russell. Whoa, for my kid doing great in our Discord. Feel free to reach out to him and say congratulations, or to just pick his brain because he's a cunning lad. Now, last but certainly not least, we're going to go into the Wizards Asylum GT in the United States. It wasn't the biggest event, but it was still good and worth going over. Just take a look at Nathan's Blackened Ship. Okay, I don't know how to read. Sorry. Let me take a look at the chat real quick. He said, when do you start selling merch? Ooh, that's going to be announced very soon because we're getting it set up, guys. So maybe like next month, most likely. He said, WAAAGH Tactics, bathwater, $10 a gallon. Oh, I'd give that to you for free, Aaron, you little freak. I'll take your entire stock. See? Okay, see? I'll give it to you for free too, you creepers. All right, so Nathan Blacken shit. I'm gonna stop saying your name, Nathan. All right, just guess your name. So we have Badrukk's Wow Crew. We have, hey, I do take baths. How dare you say that, Steel? Of course I do. In Grot Slime. All right, so we have Deffkilla Wartrike with Super Cyborg Body, Captain Badrukk, Mazgas Cragbag, Namad Smash Good with Ed Wappas Kill Chopper. 2 War Bosses, won't follow me, lads. 3 Chucks, Flash Gits, 3 units of Gretchen. I really like that. Nowadays I'm going into more Gretchen. I'm like, I want more stuff. I want to take more of my deployment zone. I'm going to screen more stuff out. So that I'm into that too. 2 units of Knobs. GW said you guys got a point increase. He said, we don't care. I'm bringing them all. And the Squigs. There we go. 2 units of Storm Boys and a Warbiker unit. I like running the Deffkilla Wartrike with that Warbiker unit. Oops, I don't need that up yet. So yeah, this list is something that the only difference here is There's no gas, but in a lot of ways, this is very similar to all the other what I would consider a very typical strong orc archetype right now, where you have Kaptain Badrukk, you have a Mazrog, maybe you have a Deffkilla Wartrike, maybe you don't, maybe he's a gas, but you have Naban Smash Group, Abweb Skill Choppa, and then you have multiple war bosses with big units of knobs, or you can double scalpel with small units of knobs, 3 trucks, 3 to 4 trucks, whatever it is. This is what you'll most commonly see people kind of starting their list development from for our current archetypes, and then breaking it down into other ones. So I really into his list. I've run and used and likes very similar, if not the exact list. So I stopped using double knobs and just went for a gas because I felt like I needed those that additional lethal and stuff. I just hate wounding stuff on 5s, even with knobs. So let's take a look at his matchup. So in his first game, he went into Necron's Canoptic Court. We have the Catan Shard of the Nightbringer. Luminar Caesaris, he's hilarious, right? But I had a Necron player say, I don't know if you can kill that. And you know what? He was wrong. Okay, so we have, with the knobs just destroyed him. So we have Overlord, Plabmancer, Technomancer, 2 units of Immortals. Oh, a unit of Warriors. Didn't really see that coming. Interesting. Deathmarks, Lynchguard, Canoptic Swarm, Locust Destroyers, and then 1 unit of Wraiths. We have the Annihilation Barge, the Knife Scythe, and a Triarch Stalker. This list is totally just swinging off the wall with different, archetypes and different. I mean, with its archetype with different units that I'm not really used to seeing between the Night Scythe and the Lich Guard. The Death Marks are nice. I think they Deep Strike. I want to say exactly what they do again, or Infiltrate, one or the other. Then we have the Wraiths are really what normally you see here, just a bunch of them. So the fact that he didn't just overload on the Wraiths is very interesting to me, because he did bring the Court, which is more about, I'm going to walk into the middle and just challenge you on stats, which if you choose to do that to Orks, you have chosen wrong. So we actually have one of the few factions that when you go to stat check us into the middle of the table, we kind of laugh and we go, I guess. Whoa! Right. So yeah, I love to see that. Into the second matchup, he went to the Genestealer Cults, one of those armies that they hate us because we take up the board. But if you don't have transports, they just start picking you apart. So you really want to make sure that you've understood that your transports are going to be the ones getting targeted. And then when you disembark, just be aware of the Overwatch when you start to get interchange of them. Not that they have great Overwatch, but keep in mind of that. And then they have a couple countercharging units. So when you do start getting stuck in, be prepared to fight in death. We have the Abominate, Kellamorph, Primus, whatever. Alakite hybrids, Acolyte hybrids. Here are the 3 units of big aberrants, and then Achilles Bridge Runners. So this guy's like, you know what? I'm sick of coming in off table edges and not doing anything. I'm just going to go hit you with these guys. What they hate to see is the fact that Orks are going to just be like, I guess I'll just fight in death against you and then pick up almost 400 points each time I fight you, and I'm going to swing the game on that. And that's definitely going to swing the game. So let's see what his third game was, though. And his third game was the Adeptus Custodes. So we're going to have a data sheet I'm pull up here real quick also in a bit. But we all know that Custodes are just a very difficult matchup for Orks right now. It's very obvious. Any army that's like, I'm just going to stand in the middle of the table and fight first, and you're going to have to walk into me, and I have great OC and durability stacking and and reduce damage. Yes, very annoying. So we have the Blade Champion, a Veiled Blade that just makes him get 2 more attacks, and he gets more OC. So one turn he's going Super Saiyan with those Wardens he's most likely with when they pop the Feel No Pain. We have the Shield Captain with Inspirational Exemplar. They understand their own weakness to Battle Shock, therefore then Inspirational Exemplars to allow them to automatically pass Battle Shock within 12 inches. I think it's like once or something. We have 3 units of Custodian Wardens. The 1 unit's just slightly smaller than the other 3. The other 2, and then the 2 big bricks of Wardens. Of course, you're all looking to pop their Feel No Pains, and then a Cladius Assassin and Lord Inquisitor Draxus. So let's take a look at that girly girl. So Lord Inquisitus Draxus, we have a anti-Xenos Inquisitor. So really what she does is, while this model is leading a unit, let me see if I can highlight this. There we go. While this model is leading a unit, each time a model in that unit makes an attack that targets an enemy unit, including Imperium or Chaos, add +1 to the hit roll, which means against Xenos, which is Orks. That's us. Hi. Also, another thing to keep in mind here is that because it's to the whole unit gets +1 to hit. Hey, so that means all the Custodes, just in case they ever were getting -1 to hit for some reason, which they're not against Orks, they try to counteract that with her, but really that means she's getting +1 to hit. So that means with her, with her little firepower of guns. It's anti-infantry 4+, assault with dev wounds, so dev wounds on a 4+ for her 4 shots that are now hitting on 2s and 2 damage a pop. And then she's also dealing with her Tempest of Fire, which that can also be going for weird and direct and such. She's pretty interesting with that capability, and she's trying to do some mortal wounds to you as well. So she's turning into one of those custodian squads into like, hey, I can slightly skirmish with you even better, which is very, very annoying. So, hey, so this is one of those matchups where normally if you have a bunch of transports, you're like, hey, you can't pop them because you don't have any anti-tank. So there are shenanigans you can do by tagging these units and drawing their characters into having to pile into the trucks, having to pile into your Storm Boys, having to pile into your Deffkilla Wartrike, so that your other units can fight them reliably. Mind you, when you do fight in death, because of the wording of the strata, fight in death, it's by model count, which means the custodian player cannot counteract that with reducing damage by 1 with genetic alchemy or whatever, because that's by unit. So keep in mind, it's very, very hyper important that you retain the ability to fight in death, because that's really how you're going to get around the reduced damage and their fight in death. So you're now doing that will become very, very important. And in my opinion, Gaz gives you the ability to possibly annihilate the wardens as well. It does become a little interesting that if you are really cheeky git, you can get flash skits within range. So Kaptain Badrukk allows them to be reduced toughness by 1, and then your knobs on the wall will be strength 10. So that means even though they're going to be -1 to the wound, they'll still be getting wounded on 3s, and then you pop Unbridled Carnage, and then Gaz goes off on them. With Gaz Makari's ability. So you can stack all of that in one shot when you're warden units. The problem is that you still have a bunch of other warden units to deal with, and you have other guards. So this is one of those things where I'm like, hey, bring Mandos and stop those guys from getting into the table earlier. Deffkilla Wartrikes for OC contention when I can. Like I said, a Gaz already. So this is, as an orc player, you understand if he's a exceptional custodian player, he's going to understand how to be playing it. It really comes down to if in the WAAAGH you can get your damage output and he doesn't roll crazy feel no pains or whatever it is, but very difficult matchup for orcs. So there's no direct answer other than hope the dice are somewhat in your favor and do all you can to mitigate their efficiency. And like I said, get them to fight and pile into things they don't want to pile into. So his next matchup was into the Hyper Crypt Legion. So imagine you can go on to Custodes with triple wardens and triple warden guard, and then you're like, oh, Hyper Crypt's next, right? So we have the Night Shroud, the Katana of the Nightbringer, a Void Dragon, a Hexmark Destroyer, the Silent King, Saitan, 2 Swarms, Doomsday Arcs, 3 Doomsday Arcs, and the Locust Destroyer. So what's normally you'd be like, I have Immortals here so that I can shoot, and then they have a character in the unit that allows them to shoot and then move closer into an objective. They would have other kind of shenanigan-y, maybe individual destroyers to start dropping into different corners of the table. This person decided, I'm going to go for all damage and just say, hey, stat check you. And like I said before earlier in this, Orcs are one of those armies that you don't want to just decide to stat check with, 1,000 points of your army by saying, here's multiple Void Katans and the Silent King, and you're like, I guess we'll go for this, and then you roll all your damage into it and you hope that you just annihilate them. Also, you can beat them on OC. You can understand that sometimes you don't even have to charge them. You just deny primary, and then go for your secondary scoring potential, stop them from getting in the table where they want to be. He doesn't have a bunch of small units to fit into the edges. He really just has his 1 Locust Destroyer for that. So if he doesn't have a good fixed secondary, that's another thing as well. So Hyper Crypt can be beaten by Orcs. We actually are one of their hardest matchups besides Custodes, who are directly hard matchup for Necrons right now. But yeah, there's a bunch of answers, but you do have to be a somewhat technical player and understand their capabilities and really dissect their list when they look at it, because you can see that one's drastically different Hyper Crypt list than I've seen or played into, which the ones I played into have more stuff. Then we have Iron Hands, followed our Dark Angels, Dark Angels. We have Azrael, Tech Marine, Assault Intercessors, 2 Ballistas, 2 Lancers, an Inceptor, a Land Raider Redeemer with the Firestorm, a Redemptor Dreadnought, 2 Redemptor Dreadnoughts. So this is one of those things where if the person understands that Redemptor Dreadnoughts are super annoying, he might front load them into you and force you to kind of run into them and such. But all in all, you kill their scoring units, hope that they don't beat you on fixed, deny primary. You're going to see that I'm saying that a lot because people are bringing these like effective durable units that maybe we don't outright kill because maybe you didn't bring gas or whatever may be the tools, or you're killing something on the other side of the table. Understand you don't always have to kill stuff. Understand that you can just park yourself on an objective, go store your secondaries, next turn only let him get 5 primary, do that for the first 2 turns, and then destroy him on turn 3 with your WAAAGH, whatever you have to do if he's playing KG. But orcs do have the answer, whether it's you stat check me in the middle and I destroy you, or I deny your primary and go for all the secondary, kill your secondary units in the skirmishes, and then later in the game I jump you turn 3, or your more durable units on the turn 3 WAAAGH. So very interesting how that goes. All the lists we went over today were very interesting, very different from each other. So I appreciate you. Shout out to Nathan Blackship for the getting third with that list. So I'll take a look in the chat real quick for a bit, see what you guys got to say back. But as you can see, there were some interesting different lists that we went over today that most people probably didn't see coming, or unit archetypes or whatever it may be. Yet what they lost to was very much predictable, right? We understand that custodes are very hard to deal with. We understand that Astra Militarum is literally one of our hardest matchups. When we did our tier list video of faction, like actually versus us, right? I didn't do a tier list of what's the best faction. I just did what's the hardest factions into us. Hypothetically speaking, whether it's by like a casual player or the highest level of player, I try to balance it out in that and say exactly why I thought each was which, right? So, yeah, so no one should be surprised on who we lost to with those great gets. You guys are still awesome, so I appreciate that. So let me see what you gets got to say, right? No, Daniel, he said Maz and Beast Boss on the Squig list could be good. No, give the Beast Choppa. I mean, we've seen it several times in our list. If you go to our other videos that we do, smaller, kind of shorter videos of like 8-minute videos, a bunch of people take those. Do I take it personally? No, I think the 5-up invuln kind of bothers me too much. You know, when you have stuff like a bunch of Dark Lances all over the meta, sometimes you just, not exactly Dark Lances, but Dark Lance type weapons that you're like, I have a 5-up invuln. They're like, okay, and they just put a bunch of them into you, and you're just eating 26 damage. And like, I'd rather just roll Maz's invuln on that. I played that Maz Beast Squawks. Greater interactions, yeah, allows Gaz to stage and such. Let's see. You take Maz and Gaz? I actually do take Maz and Gaz, and it's never been a waste of points, in my opinion, and in some of the lists that we've actually shown. There's lists that are not just me, people who've done 4-1, undefeated, that are using Maz and Gaz. Everybody's different, and everybody understands their meta as a whole. It's how you play them. Maz is a anvil, and Gaz is the hammer. And when I mean the hammer, I mean Makari's the hammer, because you can cause people to fully invest into Maz, and then when the wall goes off, you get the full investment because someone over invested into killing Maz. So it's, how are you playing it? Are you running Maz because you think he's going to go kill something for you? I mean, then yeah, he's a waste of points in that way. And yeah, Gaz is, what a nightmare, Gaz. It's amazing though. He said, I recently bought 2 Battle Force boxes, boarding actions, and a mech knob list. I don't know how to play. I just paint. What should I do with my hunter rigs / kill rigs? What you should do is build up everything in that box, get it battle ready, and not care about what anybody's telling you about what the meta is and things like that. Because if you're new to 40K and you just started painting and building and getting everything together, by the time the codex drops, what if we have a rule or detachment that the kill rigs are awesome and everybody's saying they're horrible and you don't even know it yet? So don't lose hope just because people say they're not awesome, they're not meta, the squig got a point increase. Doesn't matter, bro. What you can do is you can take those big unit of Beast Snagger boys, throw the pain boss in there, have a big unit in your hunter rig, or you can choose to put 2 10-man units and follow Maz around, and then use a Beast Boss and Squigosaur, and use both your pain bosses for the Battle Force boxes to heal both of those squig characters. Take your hunter rigs or make them as kill rigs instead. So you have some auto hitting las cannons. You can give +1 strength to different units and hope you go for a lethal. So it's very much playable, very much good to use. And the boarding action box will give you those mandos so that you can stop yourself from getting hemmed in possibly. And it helps fill up more of those points when you start filling out your list. So go ahead and build all that up, paint that all up. You know, we talk about everything you want to talk about for orcs here, but just know that really it's your hobby and your money. So just enjoy what you got and build it up, learn how to play the game. And then once the codex drops, you can look at what other models interest you, what kind of archetype you want to play, and then kind of lean more into that. But you got months to get your stuff ready. Maz, Gaz, and Beast Boss hit so hard. Had a great success 3 tournaments. All the even just 2, but yeah, triple is even crazy, right? Because people are like, how do I allocate these resources and all these feel no pains, and it can cause great problems. I just find that people who I play against and such, they're like, oh, that Beast Boss and Squigosaur, he's not really that killing unless it's like a vehicle or monster, and he doesn't do great into high armor. So everybody knows their stuff different. I'm just making the argument for other people, right? Let's see. Yeah, we have a bunch of lists between the Discord and our other videos that are like our edited videos, not just our live videos, that you can just look through the thumbnails and everything and see Beastboss and Maz, Gaz and Maz, you know, all these different archetypes, and you can see how the rest of the list look like. So, or join our discords and talk to any of these gits, and they'll tell you right now. Can flash gits fire from the back of a truck? Yeah, and then you give a mech to give it +1 to hit. That could be fun. Remember, when you come off a reserve, you can disembark the flash gits and then shoot right away, so you don't have to shoot from inside if you're trying to keep them safe in that truck. So, be safe. Catching the later half of the live stream is better than nothing. Hey, just that you're here and late, you know, rewatch gang. Whoa, for the rewatch gang. You guys are all appreciated. Don't worry about it. And just leaving comments and chatting with us is super important and lovely. So I appreciate you. I didn't find them a waste. They slapped hard. Managed to pop Shalaxi turn 1 with 3 big. Yeah, if you're going against demons, they would hate to see all that. I used to playing AOS, so power rating and things kind of new to me. Can someone break it down Barnley style for me? Yeah, just come to the Discord, dude, and you can talk to any of us. You can even directly at me, at anybody, and we get into it. I mean, there's no such thing as like, this is the only way to meta. That stuff sucks. Don't play it. I would never tell you that. I would never discourage anybody from using anything they want. You seen I showed you a list today where someone 4-1 and he used Ludas and a Big Mac with shock attack gun. Yeah, and he used a Deff Dread. So he was like, what did you guys say? I don't care. I'm gonna use whatever I want. And then he was awesome. So really, this is me just showing you guys. This is the whole point of this. I don't want any of you guys to copy these gits. I'm showing you, if you're a new player, how the list look like, what kind of matchups they went into and ended up losing to, because context matters. And it helps other people know, okay, maybe this worked, maybe this didn't work. Ooh, I've had this idea. Wait a second. Someone used 3 battle wagons? What the heck? I just bought mine. Okay, I'm gonna put these together because they're awesome. That's the point of these videos. It's not because I want you guys to go out there and be like, well, this is the way to play. This guy won. Whoa, I'm going to run big gas with a big brick now. No. I've never even advised that. But that kid didn't care. He went ahead and did it because that's the point of Warhammer 40K, and that's the point of Orks. We're a very diverse, creative faction, creative army. And as an Ork player, I greatly advise that instead of worrying about what's the best thing to use right now based off the stats and what the meta is, I think you should learn the base movement capability, you know, the base skill set for Warhammer 40K is what Orks excel at. You know, like Art of War said, that really caught me to mind. John Lennon said, he said, Orks play a very fair game of Warhammer 40K. What he means is that we stick to the basics. We master the movement phase. We master the charge phase. We master our pile and consolidates. We master our ability to tag and wrap. We master our ability to out-OC people and contest primary without directly holding the primary. We focus on scoring our secondary points. So it doesn't matter what you're running that everybody else is running if you didn't understand those basics of the game, because that's where our true talent lies. It's where our true skill lies. So that's why I'm just like, dude, just learn how to play with what you got and you'll have a great time. Because in the future, when the codex drops, you'll have the skill set to use it. If you're using what's not meta right now, it'll just increase your base skill set, we'll say, which means when you do get stuff that's meta, you'll be an even better player. So I have 2 kill rigs. Should I run double kill rig or kill rig and a hunter rig? That comes rest of your list, bro. You know, if you're running a pain boss and 20 dudes, put them in the hunter rig. If you're running you could just run a kill rig with nobody inside of it too. Just keep that in mind too. Or you can put the guys in the kill rig, disembark before it moves, follow Maz, or just and have him follow Maz, disembark and say, hey, I'm going to give Maz a healing, whatever, this turn, because now he got hurt. I mean, there's a bunch of different ways you could do it. That's why I say just enjoy what you're doing. Wait, so Max can give +1 to hit to the truck and the units inside get the buff too? Yes, because in reality, how firing deck worked is, just imagine when the flash gets were getting inside the truck, they all put their guns on the side of the truck, and then the truck thought, you know, the driver of the truck's like, these are my guns now, and he just shoots them because they're not shooting them. It's the truck hypothetically shooting them. So when the mech says, I give +1 to hit to that unit, that means all the guns from the firing deck are getting +1 to hit. Right? You're not getting the data sheets from the units inside necessarily from their abilities. You're just getting whatever the gun says. So if it says, let's say sustain, like the flash gets, then that means on 6s, you'll still get sustain while they're inside of it. So it'd be really cool. First time catching live. Just played my second game, 10th edition last week. Thanks for the help. Whoa, that's what I'm talking about. That's actually the point. We're here to get the general 40K Ork basis a little bit more grounded together, a little bit more cohesive, and at the same time increase the number of gits there are in the Orks, because Orks are such a hard army to get into for the fact that they do this simple stuff basic, and they're trying to get into melee in a game that's basically about shooting, right? Warhammer is about shooting. Orks are like, yeah, we just want to get stuck in for the most part. Like, we'll shoot at you so you can stay in place, you know? So really learning the basics and how to do all this stuff will be great. I'm glad you played your second game. Warhammer is really fun, so better late than never to get into it. Join the Discord, talk to us. Always willing and excited to help newer players. It's very fun. Move, shoot, communicate. Whoa! That's hilarious, right? That's what my Mandos do right there. +1 to hit and heavy keyword stack. Well, I mean, hypothetically speaking, yes, if you stood still, but you can't get +1 to hit twice. So what I mean by yes is that unit would be -1 to hit because the truck is now moved, and then that gives it +1 to hit. And if we're talking about Ludas, that means they're just going to be hitting on 5s now. So it's like hypothetically you could stack to like negate something, but in all, you can't give them +2 to hit. So for example, your looters are not going to be hitting on 4s now. You can only get up to +1 to hit. I'm just telling you, it counteracts the fact that they've now moved. If it was a unit that, let's say, once it moves, it can't get to hit like I'm wording it wrong, but in all, you would take a debuff for moving some of your units if they're heavy, in theory, because they want to stay stationary and shoot. It's that idea if it's a big heavy weapon and they would have to put it down, just for you guys to understand the logically in your head. Let's say it's a mortar, not that we have mortars, but let's say a mortar, right? A mortar would get +1 to hit only because it's stationary, because now it's been set up. If it was hastily thrown into place, it would be. So for your looters, if you look at your looter, they're holding a big old gun on their head and they're like, I'm trying to shoot, and they're missing everywhere. That's why, yes, hypothetically, you'll be like, oh, they're hitting on 6s. But looters are their own weird thing. They just suck when it comes to their shooting. But you put that Big Mac and the shock attack gun in there, and then he gets the +1 to hit. That feels amazing. Thanks for the big brain tactics. Sorry, sometimes when I'm blabbing and on live stream, it's kind of got to get into it real quick and my brain starts to run. But yes, thanks for questions. I really appreciate it. It's fun. Played my kill rig in a fun, fluffy game tonight, and it died turn 1 before I got to use it. Oh, God. I actually reserved mine a couple times when I was like worried that it was going to die. And it was all right. I mean, I played my kill rig and the hunter rig because I'm not going to talk about models and just dog them without trying them, even though I know by looking at them, they're not the most meta. I found its use. I found its disuse. When it was good. For example, giving a unit +1 strength felt amazing sometimes. And then when you roll lucky lethal, it's great. But if you go into an army that can just directly blow it up, you feel horrible. What's your favorite orc faction lore-wise? Oh, that's hard to say. When I first started, I was super into the Death Skulls, but that might have just been the color bias what I was really into. When it comes to the actual lore, it's weird to say, but I actually appreciate freebooters to a certain extent a lot. They seem kind of fun just because they kind of want to do their own thing and they understand how to cohesively work in the galaxy. Like they use their mind a little bit, but at the end of the day, they're still orcs, so they kind of betray you and mess people up and just act as mercenaries. And then blood axes are kind of hilarious because they kind of imitate the humans that they see, and they realize orcs are lacking something with cunning, right? They appreciate Gork and Mork. Therefore, they're like, ooh, I feel like we're lacking the Mork side of this. So the fact that they're trying to think outside of the box is also appreciative. So I really like freebooters. I really like blood axes. I understand the why golfs are appealing and snake bites and all the factions are super appealing because it speaks to us as orc players for our getting stuck in attitudes, and bad moons for their DACA. I actually have bad moon dice. I literally have a bad moons on. I have like 50 of them. So when I roll shooting dice at you, I'm like, haha. When I show up to a GT, I have a bag of like 40 bad moon dice, and I'm like, here are my flash guns. So I understand that too. They're very fun. What's your next project on the hobby table? Ooh, so what was I looking at doing getting in? Well, I have the Battle Force. I have the Battle Force box still to go. I have another Beast Boss on foot that I have to put together. I thought about putting another unit of Beast Snagga Boys just for the heck of it together. A lot of my stuff's already painted and put together fully, so I don't really need anything necessarily to try my new projects out. But I could use some more Beast Snagga Boys, so I might just get into those. Other than that, I actually have most of my stuff fully painted in battle ready. Oh, my Gorkanaut needs to get painted. So it's probably Gorkanaut if I could find a way to start using him again. I love bad moons. Love big shooty units with the big flashy energy guns. More DACA the better. Can't wait for the codex to play in the next shooty. My codex to play my shooty units again. Right? Oh my god. The fact that we can't shoot is kind of annoying sometimes. That people don't have to worry about it, and we're just stuck with flash kits. I really like what they do, and it's really fun. But we all have a bunch of different models in our collection we like to use. And Daggers has an awesome Bad Moons army that just looks. Bad Moons army is painted super well. All right, gets. So going forward, we can see that there's a bunch of different orc archetypes that are working. Trucks are still great. Battle wagons are slitting their way into the meta. People are using gas. People aren't using gas. People are using big units of knobs. People are having fun. We're just getting stuck in. So we know who our hard matchups are. Orcs are still looking like we're at least a top 5 army, but we seem to still be sitting on the cusp where we constantly lose to somebody at a GT, right? We didn't see any orcs go undefeated. Even the guy who did 20, 20, 20, and then he lost his last game, he drastically lost his last game. So we just have hard counters in the meta right now. So don't feel bad if you're going out there going 3-2 or 4-1, because everybody's pretty aware that orcs have some hard stuff that we just don't have the tools necessarily to deal with. Yet I'm hoping to test my theories at the GT I'm going to this weekend with Mandos and Deffkilla Wartrikes for the board presence, for stopping strategic reserves, for putting pressure early without having to rely on the wall to put the pressure, to kind of force the enemy to allocate his resources to units I wanted to allocate it to, right? I want you to kill the Deffkilla Wartrike because you don't really know exactly how much damage you need. I want you to shoot my Mandos because they have stealth necessarily, and they'll take all your small arms fire for that one turn, or they'll walk up right into you and force you to have to shoot at them. I want you to shoot at Maz and have to deal with him and while I stage with my trucks and my Squig Boy units and gas, right? So it's very much, how are we going to deal with these? We'll see. There's no direct answer for the custodes. Sometimes you just have to hope that you roll hot enough and he doesn't. So, and understand your strats very well. So, do you think GW will do us dirty and sneak Uftak into the codex after pre-orders are done? Ooh. No, I don't think GW will stick him in yet. But if he does, I wouldn't be that surprised hypothetically. So I don't gosh, that's such a hard question. If I had to guess, I'm gonna say no, because we already have enough kind of epic characters and things I have to manage. And I think GW's been trying to downsize it, but I got my oof tech just because, you know, if I'm gonna be a part of this, whoa, I gotta have my oof tech because I appreciated that book greatly. So there's only one thing to keep in mind is don't cross a wall because we knock your teeth out. See you Friday, you gets. Whoa.